without a doubt, the most common question I get asked is, hey, Azul, do I have enough money to retire? And obviously it depends on a lot of factors. But in today's video, I'm going to take a very common fact set, a situation, and talk about it. And that's for somebody that's 65 years old, and talk through, do they have enough money to retire? How much money do they need to retire? Now, why 65 years old? Really for three reasons. The first is it's the most common retirement age in the United States, at least for men. Men on average now retire at 65. Back in the early 90s, it was 62. And women on average now retire at 62. And back in the early 90s, that was 59. So we're waiting a little bit longer to retire. Why? Frankly, because life is getting more expensive. Chief amongst those is going to be housing and transportation, right? The price of houses and the prices of cars are going up. And I think that's why a lot of people are waiting till later to retire. As you know, I'm a big fan of retiring as soon as you can, but you need to make the decision that's right for you. So reason number one for 65 is it's the most common age. Reason number two, candidly, because I'm a little lazy. I can say, okay, Social Security is kicked in, right? The calculation for whether you have enough money to retire is much more complicated if we're looking at before Social Security and after Social Security. It's really two calculations. And the third reason is related to that second one, which is I did a video recently where I talked about how to calculate how much money you need to retire before Social Security. And this is kind of part two to this video. So for all those reasons, I'm talking about age 65. Okay, let's jump in. And first, I want to share with you some studies. And these are the results of studies by not just Fidelity, but also T. Rowe Price and Citizens Bank. And high level, they all agree with each other. And the first question is, how much money do you need to retire at 65? And one of the things I like about this is they do it on a multiple of income. So there's a number here we can all relate to. And so these studies give people benchmarks along the way where they should be during their journey, and then also right before they retire. So let's jump in and look at these numbers. So these three reports, there's a little bit of difference between them, but they basically all agree. And that is, at 30 years old, somebody should have 1 times their income, their pre-tax income saved up. By 35, they should have 2 times their pre-tax income saved up. And if 2 of you are working, it would be the combination of the 2 of you. If you're single, it would just be your revenue. By 40, 3 times the household pre-tax income. By 45, 4 times. By 50, 6 times your household income. By 55, and now we're getting into my audience's age group, 7 times your household income. By 60, it's 8 times, and then by 65 to 67, depending on the study, you should have 10 times. So let me give you an example. If one person is working and the other person is staying at home and managing the household and keeping everything together on the home front, which is probably the tougher of the 2 jobs, but the household income is $100,000, and you're getting close to 65, the goal is to have 10 times your income. So in that case, it would be $1 million. Now, very, very few people manage to save $1 million before they retire. In fact, fewer than 10% of 65-year-olds have $1 million. So these admittedly are aspirational numbers. They're goals to have. But if you're not there, don't beat up on yourself, right? Why would you beat up on yourself if 90% of the people in the United States are in exactly your situation where they haven't saved up that much, right? The other thing is all of these studies are based on income, but that's not what determines how much money you need in retirement. What determines how much money you need in retirement are your expenses. How much do you plan on spending, right? I've shared in my videos before, over half of Americans making over $100,000 a year do not save a dime. And if, that's probably very few people in my audience. If it is you, you're going to need more money to retire because you're spending that full $100,000. But I have a lot of people in my audience that are saving at least 10%. Some people are saving 20%, some people more than 20%. And that's where Fidelity's rule of 45% comes in. Fidelity would say to shoot for having 45% of your income replaced by your savings, and the rest of it would be replaced by Social Security. Now, the average Social Security check in the United States is just about $1,800 a month. Now, that's for people that are retiring at the average retirement age, which is 65. It's important to note that folks that are retiring early, the average retirement check for people that retired at 62 is quite a bit less. It's $1,200. But again, this example is retiring at 65. So let's say you are making $100,000 a year and you're spending $60,000 of it. The rest goes to taxes taxes and to your living expenses, right? So you're spending, and savings, I'm sorry. You're spending $60,000 of it, the rest is tax and savings. Well, in retirement, in theory, you don't need to save anymore. Although a lot of people do. I would encourage you to try to break out of that mentality. You don't want to unnecessarily sacrifice. I'd say probably half of my clients just can't break out of that savings mentality. So, they're getting X dollars a month, but they're still, just like they were when they were working, they're still saving part of that X dollars a month. And if that works for you, you do you. But let's get back to how much money that you need. So again, it comes down to expenses. And here's the easiest way to look at it. Let's say that you need $20,000 a year outside of Social Security to meet your spending, your expense goals, right? So you look at that $20,000. Now, for every $10,000 that you need outside of Social Security for spending, you need to have saved $250,000. It's just a rule of 4%. I'm just applying it a different way. 4% of $250,000 is $10,000. So it's an easier way to do the math. Another way to look at it is for every $4,000 that you need $100,000 in savings. So let's say you needed $16,000 a year outside of Social Security. Well, that would mean, there's 4 different sets of $4,000, right? And for each one of those income streams, you need $100,000 in savings to produce that. So somebody that needs $16,000 out of Social Security would need an extra $400,000, right? 4% of 400,000 is 16,000. So look at your expenses, then subtract the money you have coming in. For most of us, that's going to be Social Security. For some of you, you're going to have rental property income. Other people might have a side job or a part-time job, but just deduct that. So that's an income source. You have Social Security. What are your other income sources? What are your expenses? And then subtract all of those expenses from your income sources. Social Security, side job, rental properties, whatever it is. So let's say you need an extra, as I said earlier, $16,000 a year. You're going to need an extra $400,000 in savings to get there. A lot of people are going to want to have a buffer above and beyond that. So maybe you have $500,000. Now, this is not financial advice for your specific situation. I encourage you to work with an accountant or a fee-only financial advisor for your specific situation so they can give you advice specific to what your needs and what your goals are. I really, really think it's super powerful and you'll find that useful. Also, I want to encourage you to watch one of 2 videos. If you haven't seen this video here, which talks about what it takes to retire before 55, watch that because this video is really part 2. So how much money does it take to retire at 55? And if you've already seen that one, if you've come from that one, this video here, I think, is going to be super helpful for you, which is the average income of people in retirement in the United States. Average income, people in the United States, and what it takes to retire at age 55. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in one of those. Take care. Bye-bye.